What's going on, everybody? It's sandocmp, and today we're gonna be back with what is this? I think this is the fourth episode. Yeah, I think this is the fourth episode of the How to Canon series. Today we're gonna be messing with sand comps, and I did something different this episode. I actually made the finished project, the finished product, so I could show you what we're gonna be making this episode. And let me just flick this lever so that you can see exactly what we're gonna be making. We're going to be making this sand comp this episode, and this can be a little bit more compact, but for the sake of the video and for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to have it a little bit less compact so that you could understand the redstone and the wiring a little bit better. But this is what we're going to be making. It's just a 3-second sand comp to go with our 3-second. Next episode, we're going to be making the nuke. So I'm going to explain this as good as I can, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the sand comp on our original cannon. So, the sand comp. First, let's talk about how sand stacks on the wall. Okay? And I've talked about this quite a bit before, but when you're having a fusion like this, sand stacks on the wall, and this is really good to get like put in your head, right? So sand stacks on the wall. Let's represent sand with this gold block, and we'll represent the hammer, which we made yesterday with this redstone block. So the sand will hit the wall. It'll fall for two redstone ticks, or about a 20th of a second. The hammer will hit the wall, and then the hammer will explode, shoot all the sand downwards, and stack up to here. And we'll have a piece of red sand on top, and this will be our hybrid sand. If we had a nuke, if we had anything like that, that this is where it would blow up and it would explode the wall. And that's what we're going to be making today, the sand stump. So let's do that. So we're going to start out pretty simply. We're going to go pretty far. One, two, three. The reason we're going to go this far is just because, again, I could be making it more compact, but for the sake of the video, I'm not going to. Okay, and now we're also going to rewire this a little bit to get it in our way. And actually, I'll start wiring the sand comp a little bit so you can see. And I will show you guys, I will explain to you guys all this wiring in a minute, but first, let's actually build this thing. And let me just stack this up. We need a pretty big booster because as you'll see in a minute, so the sand's going to be getting shot in right here. As we learned yesterday, um, whenever a piece of TNT hits here or whatever, it has about a game tick before it breaks. So this sand needs to get all the way to into this crack of the stair in one game tick. So this booster has to be pretty big in order to push it into that. So that's why this booster is this big. Um, if we were making it a little bit more compact, like I could, but again, I want it to be a little bit simpler for the video, then it would not have to be this big. You could get away with a pretty small, relatively small booster. But let's continue building here. And wiring this is going to be a little bit annoying because I do not know how to do this with World Edit. So if you want to skip ahead until I'm done wiring this, feel free. In the meantime, if you haven't checked out my other videos on this series, go ahead and check those out. And if you're enjoying, definitely subscribe and like. It does help me quite a bit in getting these videos recommended to more people, which is all I want, right? Just want to teach the general public a little something about cannoning. Nothing in depth. Well, I guess the series is pretty in depth, but nothing like too crazy. Just the basics of cannoning so that everybody feels a little bit more comfortable when they need a counter or when they might even need to build a cannon for their faction. So we're almost done wiring this, and again, I don't know how to do this world edit. Otherwise, I would be beyond done with this already, but whatever. Okay, and let's go ahead and wire this back. So what this is the reason I'm doing it like this is because when this repeater goes off, it's going to power this, which is going to power this, which is actually going to power this back one too. Um, so that's how you could have three wide, like full boosters like that. So now we're gonna start on the sand comp part. Well, that is part of the sand comp, but whatever. You usually will have a ladder here. In some more compact cannons, you won't, but usually you'll have a ladder here. And in the way that I do my sand comp, I usually have slabs here. Now, there's many ways to do sand comp, so I'm just showing you the way that I prefer and I most commonly use. But I'd highly recommend you going out and experimenting with your own, and figuring out what you like. So up next, we need some sort of place for the sand to be on, which will be right here. And this has to be 3 like this, but here's the problem, right? If we have 3 here, and in the future, we're gonna have something like this on top. Or even right now, if we have 3 here and we place a redstone right here, it's gonna hook up to that. And now we could just do this. In my opinion, that's kind of ugly. I don't know about you, but I think that's kind of ugly. So another way to go about this is just rewiring this booster, and we could do that pretty simply. And it's using the same trick that I just showed, where we wire it like this, which is a pretty cool little way to do your wiring, and it's a cool way to save a little bit of space whenever you may need to fit something. So that's great. Now, let's go ahead and continue building this. And again, I will explain every single tick and every single thing that I'm doing after we finish this sand comp. And I'll explain a little bit throughout. We're going to go down like this. Boom, 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 boom. A little bit of a lag spike there. That's all right. And again, there's many, many ways people have made sand comps in the past. This is not the only way, and this might not even be the best way. This is just the way that I've always done it, and this is the way that I much prefer over anything else that I've ever tried. So usually sand comps, uh, or the most basic sand comp that drops 255 sand is about 15 long. So we have stacked 14 so that the actual sand comp itself is indeed 15 blocks long, as you can see in chat there. I know it's a little bit small, but 15 blocks. Then we're going to come up around here because we need a booster in order to boost this. We need a booster to boost these infinite boosters, and I'll show you how those infinite boosters work to push our sand forward here in a minute. Just give it time. Now let's go ahead and wire this, which is pretty simple. And that honestly, that's all cannoning is, right? It's a bunch of really, really simple ideas put together to make something pretty cool. Um, so let's get these infinite boosters going. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want about 4 long infinite boosters in here. You could do 3 or whatever, but I like 4. And you'll start to notice as you continue cannoning after this series and etc. that a lot of cannons and a lot of people's decisions are all like personal decisions. None of them are really like set in stone. There's no right way to do anything in cannoning, like design-wise and stuff like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This means this one's not one. You can place these. Place a repeater. 1, 2, 3, 4. Replace this. Repeater. 1, 2, 3, 4. This doesn't need to be there. Now, we have a basic setup here. Um, Nothing's really good. I need to actually place obsidian right here. I forgot to do this in the whole world edit stage, but whatever. Let's go ahead and do that on both sides. This is a very symmetrical sand comp. There's a lot of sand comps that aren't symmetrical, and maybe in the future after this series I'll show off some more compact ones. But right now we just need to get the very basics and fundamentals down. Uh, so now let's do this. And again, um, I will explain all of this here in a minute. The long pauses are because there's not much that I'm doing right now. If you 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then you want about 2 ticks between these two. And the way that I usually like to do this, go about doing this, is something like so. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. And this is just a pulse extender. And you'll see why this is cool. So if I press this button right now, as you can see, this is going back and forth really quickly. And this is a very important part of sand comps, this little motion back and forth. And if I put carpets down, and keep in mind, this is going to be a carpet comp. Web comps are a little bit outdated, so I want to keep this series as updated as possible. And right now it's 2020, 2021. So if you're watching this in the future and things have changed, um, try to find updated information. But if it's 2021 or if it's in the future and things are relatively the same, don't worry about it. So if I get some sand right now, right? Normally, if I place sand down, it's gonna just break. It's gonna break on that carpet, right? But the great part about this is if I have these going back and forth and I place sand, it actually stays. It does not break until those stop. And this is what we call, and I might be wrong in this because I haven't said this name in a long time, but I'm pretty sure this is what we call block 36. I learned about this a long time ago. I'm pretty sure K-Man came up with the concept. Do not quote me on that, but you could do this with a bunch of stuff. You could do this with fin skates. You could do this with whatever. But whenever um, carpets like that are moving back and forth this fast or faster, as you can see, the sand doesn't break and it just stays there. And it stays in an entity form. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to close up these, shoot the sand, and remember as we learned before, it'll go straight up along here, and this booster will shoot it out into the barrel. And that's what makes sand comps work. That's what makes carpet comps work, to be more specific. So let's see that in action. We're going to do this, and this is just the way that I like to wire my stuff. Again, you don't have to wire it exactly like me. In fact, I suggest you don't wire it exactly like me and you find your own way, the own way you really like to do it. Okay, so, and all this is going to do is have these open for a little bit longer, and you'll see why that's important here in a minute. Um, and this is just some delay. Now, these ticks don't really matter too much until you start getting into nuking and stuff, but we'll talk more about that in our nuke episode that's coming up next. But for now, these ticks right here don't matter too much. What does matter though is something that's going to come up here in a minute that I'll tell you about. Let me get rid of this. Place our sand, and this I can use world edit for. Slash stack 14. We'll stack it along this whole thing. If we count this, that's 30. So this comp holds 30 sand on one layer. So the closest that we could get to 255, which is what we're stacking to, high limit, is 8 up. And that'll give us exactly 270 sand in the comp. And this is a pretty weird point, right? So a cannon that stacks 255 might drop into the sand comp more sand than 255. But that's all right. There's some sand comps that drop exactly 255 sand. A lot of them drop a little bit more. In this case, we're dropping a little bit more. It doesn't make it less efficient or whatever, because usually on servers, um, sand, it's not really that expensive. You'll have sand bots, and it's just not worth it a lot of times. So if you slash copy and slash paste minus O, that means whenever sand breaks, you could slash paste minus O, and it'll go back up there. So now we're gonna see a pretty where I'm gonna show you how you test your sand comps. Uh, because that's a pretty important thing. So if I go ahead and fire now, and I realize I haven't pressed this button the entire game, but you'll see our thingies will open, and how much sand will it let down? This much. So we're actually missing 2 layers. It should be letting down 2 more layers of sand. And that's because we want to drop Exactly 270. And I didn't explain why I put this gravel here. I put this gravel here because when you're testing your sand comp and it's like this, you want to make sure your sand opens and falls and only leaves this gravel behind. Because if it only leaves this gravel behind, that means it's letting out only the amount of sand that it needs to let out. So what's the solution to this? Well, if this is a pulse extender extending how long these are open, the solution is to make it open longer. So if we add 1 tick and we fire, I happen to know that this won't be enough, but if we add 1 tick and we fire, you'll see that it'll drop a little bit more. Now we need now we need to extend it just a little bit more. We fire, and this is the process of testing a sand comp. Um, Testing a sand comp for dropping sand. So it still does that. So I think we need about one more. We fire. The sand's gonna fall, and only the gravel will remain, which means that we did it right. And there's no sand up there yet because nothing's actually getting boosted out. But if we paste minus O again, now now it's the timings about this. So when this sand falls and this goes into the back and forth state where the sand is an entity, and I actually need to put some ladders here before I mess up. This will go off first, which will boost a little bit of sand, but it'll also boost the TNT that's right here. So there's going to be a bunch of TNT right here. And when this booster goes off, it's going to explode and push all the TNT into this block. And all the sand's going to be like there. And this TNT is going to push the sand along farther, push into here, push the sand along farther, push into here, all the way until it gets pushed right in this barrel. And as it's falling, this TNT is going to shoot it in one game tick to the top of that stair. And oh, that sounds kind of crazy or whatever, but let's talk about the timings for this booster. Because the timings for this booster is really specific, right? Because this booster has to shoot it into here at a very specific timing right before the power blows up, but in one game tick to get here so that it shoots out and doesn't break on that bottom of the stair. So the timings for this is, so if this is on 14, you want this booster to be on 13 ticks, but it needs to have this. So again, just count these like normal ticks. So it's just like when we did our hammer booster. Our second power, if I come around, our second power is on 16. So that means this booster had to be on 15, but we counted these as ticks. As we can see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just like before with that hammer booster, the sand booster, we're going to do it the same way. So our first power is on 14. So that means this needs to be on 13 with these. And remember, this has to be on 13 because our first power is what shoots out the sand. Because remember, the sand falls down the wall and then the hammer goes. And that's when it explodes and stacks the sand. And let that explode. So this needs to be on 13. So let's just do something weird right now. Not weird, but. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we'll just add 2 ticks here. 11, 12, 13. So now that's on 13. So if we go ahead and TNT fill, you'll see something. If I go ahead and fire now, you'll notice, obviously, we don't have red sand, but you'll notice nothing happens. And the reason for that is if I come into here, this is all scuffed. It's all messed up. So first thing we do, I mean, we could lower this, but that's still going to be kind of weird. And I'll show you why that's going to be kind of weird. If I come up here, and I actually put red sand because I do need red sand in this cannon. Let me just find the red sand. This is a prime example of how to like debug your cannons. So I'm gonna fire. Remember, we just broke that block, so the sand should be able to shoot out a little bit. And as you can see, the sand does shoot out. It looks like it stacks perfectly. And it does look like it stacks perfectly. But if we put this up to 255 right now, it's not going to stack all the way. And I'm going to show you why right now. So what actually happened in our barrel is some of the sand, and you're not going to see it, but it's actually breaking right here. So if I paste, if I paste this again, so if on my server, this is the diamond hoe, and this gets rid of stuff. If I take this to 255 right now, which I'm going to do, I'm going to move the barrel up to 255 so I could get my point across a little bit better. I'll bring it one down. And emerald. Let me just bring it off the platform so that we're actually stacking to 255. So if I bring it here and I paste -0, which remember puts the sand back, and I fire, you'll see that it's not going to stack full. And as you can see, it did not stack full. It actually lost some sand. So what could be going on? Well, I will tell you right now. So during this shot, remember this booster has to get all that sand there in one game tick, right? So this sand's gonna come by. And because it's getting shot right there, the majority of it's gonna hit this wall and it's gonna slide a little bit this way. So by the time we're actually boosting the sand, it's about right here. And I could show this in action with a quick fire, and you'll watch the sand kind of slide a little bit and then get shot out. As you can see, it slides a little bit, then it gets shot out. And that's great and all, but again, we saw that it didn't stack full. So what's happening? Well, it's getting shot over here, and some of it isn't at the very top. Some of it isn't at the very top because remember, some of it was way over here when it got shot. So some of it's actually breaking on these slabs or on this stair. And the way that we fix that, a very common way to fix that, is if you've already put all this booster, and this is the reason why I put so much booster, is to show this exact problem. You don't know how you could add more booster. A good way to actually fix this problem is to move your booster up one. You move your booster up one. Now the TNT is closer to the sand, so it's going to affect the sand more, and it's going to be more apt to stay at the top. And we'll see now that it's actually going to stack full, which is pretty cool. So let me fire and prove this to you. As we can see, it's stacked full, and the reason it's stacked full is because the TNT was closer to the sand, and because it was closer to the sand, it affected it more, and because it affected it more, uh, it went up to the top faster, and there was more of an effect from this TNT onto the TNT onto the sand that floated over here, so it was able to hit the stair and actually make it to the wall. And now let's put this on 3 second to show you that it actually does work at 3 second. We'll go ahead and //set sand. And on the server that I'm on, which by the way is localhost, I'm on a localhost server. I'm not on Crystal or anything like that. Um, but the server has a very, 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 very good jar, the one that I'm on. So I have no problems. But on this server, the way you do magic sand is like this. On your server, it might be a little bit different, or you might not have magic sand. If you don't have magic sand, just go ahead and stack this up to sky limit, right? And now if we go ahead and flip this lever, you'll see that it will stack just perfectly at 3 second. And this will show a cool little thing as well. I'm only going to shoot twice, or maybe that was 3 times, but you see it shoots, blah, blah, blah. It shoots again, but it's not really stacking again because it's shooting at the top here. So I'm going to show you a cool way to test your sand comp a little bit better. And it's if you come over here, you place blocks, you grab a trapdoor, and you shoot like this. And the reason this is a little bit better is because now when because this is where your sand actually stacks, and it should be stacking one below if you're making a cannon like this. And now since you're on the trapdoor, it's actually going to hit this and stack right here, so you'll actually see the sand stacks over and over again, which is pretty useful when you're testing your sand comp. So let's go ahead and watch it stack at 3 second. Okay, I never actually flipped the lever. Let me go flip the lever. It's all bad today. Boom, boom, boom. And as you can see, we're stacking just fine and just perfect. And I'll show you in the sand comp what this kind of looks like so that you could see. And you'll see the block 36 and everything. You see how the sand gets hit there, gets shot out, and boom. You'll see that it slides a little bit far, but because we move that up, it's able to actually shoot it out even when it is that far. And yeah, that's about it for today. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and next episode we're going to be going on a nukes, which is actually the last episode of this base series. I don't know why this is firing, but yeah, the nukes is actually the last episode of this base series. So after that, we're going to be going over some more specific things like, one revving and cubic cannons and pseudo nukes and stuff of that like. So again, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions whatsoever, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you next time.